Sarah Kate just presented, so you know a little bit about her already. She's a senior in graphic design. But she created this paper in the fall of 2020 in my class on East Asian art. And she's a ceramics enthusiast. And so she started looking into especially the socioeconomics of China as we studied them. So I'll let her take it away.
All right, so today we'll look into how ceramics have served as a window into the worlds of culture and history. In medieval China, the making of ceramics was greatly celebrated, calling for kiln towns to produce considerable amounts of ceramic goods. A closer look at textual studies, trade, and the social and religious cultures of China reveal a complicated duality in the art of ceramics and the business surrounding it. By surveying these topics, it can be said that the role of ceramics served not only as an art, but as a lens into the socioeconomic state of medieval China. To begin, it's seen in the writings of both Hong Yongzhu, an early Yuan dynasty poet, and Zheng Gong, a Song dynasty scholar, that ceramics are perceived as a low craft, but yet recognized as a high art. Hong establishes a clear love for ceramics, praising their immense craft and Hong establishes a clear love for ceramics, praising their immense craft and form, and his willingness to give money inspired by the manufacturer. Zhang asserts that the process of making ceramics is a natural process rather than an art, implying the creation of these objects are not commendable as they require little skill. The two writers seemingly have opposite opinions regarding the integrity of ceramic making. However, both examples will be seen in the demand for ceramic goods and the treatment of those who produce it. Anne Gerritsen, historian at the Asia Research Institute, explains the structure created for specific towns within China. She explains that populated locations in China with a duty to pay taxes but no administrative order were deemed zen, or market towns, also referred to as low-order units, whereas administrative locations were deemed zayan, or county, which were also high-order units. The empire establishes zen and other lower units as places of economic importance and are selectively representative of their commercial or technological contributions to the empire. This means towns provide goods for market based on regional resources, which are distributed by or to county locations. This is the relationship between Fulian County and Jingdezhen, which is known for being a kiln town. Jingdezhen's major resource was kaolin, a main ingredient to porcelain, and was responsible for manufacture as well as mass-producing wares for market in and outside of the empire. Whereas Fulian County is representative of housing and distributing those goods, the nature of the locations establishes a hierarchical relationship in which citizens of lower order units work to produce goods either for consumers of the market or for consumers of the court. During the Song dynasty, Jingdezhen provides a massive number of wares, including wares such as cup stand. Islamic merchants as early as Yuan dynasty provide cobalt, which produces the rich blue found in porcelain wares, and agate, which produces bluish green in wares. And this is provided to China via trade. The Silk Road provided both merchants and buyers, resulting in an overwhelming demand for China's ceramic goods from neighboring countries such as Japan, Europe, and India. Demand for ceramics within China and beyond, creation of kiln towns to supply the high demand and incorporating goods received, forms a dynamic relationship between the merchant, producer, and consumer. This relationship perpetuates the demand that will provide China with economic stimulus and economic stability for years to come. A considerable portion of the demand of ceramics within China stems from imperial court culture. Art was often commissioned to include the culture's religious influences to convey virtue in hopes that this religious inclusion would bring them a better reign in life and also in death. To better understand the concept of including religious culture, we must look at previous examples existing in Tang Dynasty China. The Tang Dynasty displayed and embraced influences of Taoism and Confucianism. To start, Taoism focuses on the idea that the universe exists in opposites, and the coexisting of those opposites creates balance. Taoism's ideals lie in the importance of achieving balance between man and nature. In art, this is symbolized by marks of the natural world, such as flowers and trees. Tang Dynasty's stem cup, a court object associated with luxury and a symbol of power and wealth, displays the Taoist influence in floral patterning and overall balance of form. Here's a general picture of stem cup. The picture itself is somewhat dark, so here is one that the picture is a little bit lighter, so you can see some of the floral patterning and some of the marks of nature that are ingrained into the form. Similarly, Song Dynasty's cup stand reflects Taoist ideals in recalling images of nature as seen in floral decorations and minimalist floral form. Over the years, wear and tear has taken place, so the actual stand has petals, and that's where the minimalist floral form is seen in. The other, which is Confucianism, is a philosophy that states a perfect society is only accomplished by individuals who conduct themselves perfectly, submitting to their predestined order. Social mobility is not allowed, and the only way to be virtuous is to remain compliant to your class as others are to theirs. By adhering to this structure, the parts work to make the whole function perfectly. This philosophy expresses an inherently hierarchical social system enforced by conservative tradition, keeping low order supplying for high orders. This is seen in the creation of market and kiln towns like Jingdezhen, in which lower order units are forced to mass produce goods for high order units. This perpetuates the hierarchical and cyclical relationship between elites and citizens, where citizens are forced to stay lower class in order to produce ceramics both for the imperial court and for the market. Finally, it's worth noticing the treatment of the ceramic creators. Hong paints a disgusting picture of the kiln town Jingdezhen, stating his disdain for the business, but even greater, his disappointment of pottery. Despite the similarities in conventions, Hong asserts that pottery is lesser to ceramics as their methods of creating forms were savage and the outcome left imperfections that could not be overlooked. Because of this, pottery was seen as not fit for trade. And objects like tea bowl, despite their impressive form, were likely only used by the creators and not high-order citizens. Hong will later express his frustrations in Fulian County, specifically about the lack of recognition given to the ceramicists. Unlike other mediums of this time, ceramics and their creators were not attributed. However, other art forms such as landscape and portrait painting and calligraphy, the artists were not only attributed, but were considered scholars. These works and the artists responsible were highly revered, often having their works in the emperor's living quarters. As a result, the artists lived in high-order units for their contributions to the empire and were steadily commissioned for works by the court. Ceramics, on the other hand, were left untitled, and the creators are unknown. Because of this, forms are titled for their appearance of form and not for the individual responsible for making it. Denying the creators the recognition to their works establishes them as laborers rather than artists and perpetuates the idea that ceramics and other wares are a good rather than an art and should be treated as such. So, in summary, evidence seen in textual commentary, as well as the demand for the objects, proves ceramics were ultimately revered as an art in early China. However, treatment of ceramics and ceramicists alike suggests the reaction towards both were strategic. Denying the art and the artist allows higher class citizens to secure ceramic making as a labor rather than a craft, a business rather than a connoisseurship, and denying the creator's ability to elevate in social class through the title of artist. Implementing kiln towns trains low-order citizens in ceramic making while successfully supplying a continuous demand, ultimately creating a perfect working machine. A number of religious ideas support the strict social structure enforced by elites, in which a clear working class and a clear administrative class exist in a symbiosis responsible for the success of China's economy.
Any questions for our speaker? All right, thank you so much. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sure. I was just going to say, what prompted your interest in this research?
So I thought that it was really strange in Trey's class. We only briefly touched on ceramics. I think because there's just so little information about how it really influences the culture. Art really conveys a lot of history about a period, and we can really derive a lot of information just looking and studying a lot of pieces, but there wasn't a lot of information from ceramics. So ceramics now, there's all sorts of fields that you can go into. It's functional, it's decorative, it's sculptural. But in medieval China, in Song Dynasty, in Tang Dynasty, and so many other dynasties that lived for so long and were so successful, really created a lot of trade. And when we think of fine china, what is fine china? It's ceramic. And where did that originate? It originated in China, and its popularity came about via trade, but nobody knows about it. Everyone uses it and everyone loves it, but nobody knows about it. So we also looked at the success of some of these dynasties, and I started to notice that everyone's using it, and courts are decorated with all sorts of art, but it seems like ceramics is the only thing that is treated like a good and not something fine. So despite that it brought in so many outside countries for trade, I thought maybe that was kind of interesting, and the textbooks didn't seem to answer that. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.